In this WrestleTalk news, WWE changes the New Day's name, for now at least. Shane McMahon is a possibility for AEW, my review of SmackDown, Tempest's review of Rampage, and more. Subscribe and enable notifications to always on for daily wrestling news videos so you can acknowledge your tribal Pete. I still need to think of who Andy will be facing at Elimination Chamber for the interim Jam That Championship. I think I have someone in mind. Someone who's well overdue a championship opportunity, someone who has some sort of intangible quality. I wonder who it could be.
Support WrestleTalk!
The New Day have had a rocky few years, what with Kofi Mania catching the world on fire, only to have him drop the belt to Brock Lesnar, being separated in 2 separate drafts, but then Big E won the WWE Championship, only to have him drop the belt to Brock Lesnar. Big E has now been moved back to SmackDown to reunite with Kofi Kingston, and Woods once he's eventually returned from injury. But despite what their Titantron tells you, Big E and Kingston aren't called the New Day anymore, at least according to WWE. According to Fightful Select, Vince McMahon was adamant that Kofi Kingston and Big E not be referred to as New Day, and instead be called Big E and Kofi Kingston. One would assume this would change once Xavier Woods comes back from injury, and maybe the trio would be referred to as New Day once again, but whatever tag team combination they would make in the past would always be referred to as the New Day, so who knows what Vince is playing at. This was part of the story of why Vince McMahon wanted to reunite the New Day and bring Big E back to SmackDown, as according to the same Fightful Select report, he was also adamant about bringing them back together because he missed the magic that they created together. But you might be thinking, why would you split him up in the first place then, Vinny? And the answer would be, because he's an idiot, really. He made the split happen in 2 separate drafts under the idea that a top babyface should be on their own in most situations. But why? Why can't babyfaces have friends? Isn't that like the point of being a babyface, that you're likable and people would have your back? Speaking of being likable, Shane McMahon sure made sure that he wasn't that at the Royal Rumble, didn't he? After he was reportedly let go, but also maybe not let go as well, from WWE, there were many fan rumors of Shane McMahon to AEW confirmed, mostly in jest. However, Tony Khan has now spoken on this rumor, saying he's down for it if it were to present itself. Speaking with Sports Illustrated, Khan said, "I'd certainly take the call. I'm sure he'd be an interesting person to talk to about wrestling. I'm not sure exactly if he would be a fit. I've not heard from him and I don't expect to hear from him, but in this business, you never know." Shane McMahon to AEW confirmed. Shane has never appeared for another wrestling promotion in his career, unless you count that last episode of WCW, sure, semantics, but maybe this could be his first. But he also might still be with WWE after all, so who bloody knows? Wrestling's weird, isn't it? And now it's time for my review of last night's SmackDown in about 5 minutes. Thank you for being awesome pledge hammers on our Patreon page, WrestleTalk's personal ring announcer Rodrigo Benitez, and Shield Maiden the Zornice. You can get your own shoutout and loads of extra bonus content by visiting us at patreon.com/WrestleTalk. The show started with Sonya Deville in the ring cutting the usual heel authority figure promo. The attack from Ronda last week was unprovoked. She's been fined $100,000 and indefinitely suspended. Yada yada yada. But then, swerve! Adam Pearce came out and said Mr. McMahon himself has denied Sonya's request of Ronda's fine and suspension, and she can't get involved in Naomi's title match later tonight. Naomi then came out and slapped Sonya. But Naomi, she's still got her jacket on. You can't do that. That's illegal. Last week, the lone highlight on the god-awful show was New Day vs Los Lotharios, so this week they did New Day vs Los Lotharios again. Lotharios seem to be trying to get over the Lethal Lovers as their new nickname, and they introduced a kiss cam where they kissed a woman on each cheek. Not as good as MJF's kiss cam though, was it? Despite the two teams having a rematch for absolutely no reason whatsoever, they put on another great match with lots of time, near falls, and very fun action. Angel rolled up Kingston for the win after a Trouble in Paradise to Umberto, so they're one apiece. Now, some of you may call this 50-50 booking, and you'd be right, because it is. WWE advertised Elimination Chamber by saying it happens only once a year, so like every other premium live event then, the Viking Raiders backstage got out 2 words in their promo before they were attacked by the Usos. Glad we don't get to see any of those 4 wrestlers on the rest of the show. Roman Reigns then had a sit-down interview with Michael Cole, who showed the clip of Goldberg beating Brock Lesnar at Survivor Series 2016, which led to Reigns having the frankly very good line of, "I'm going to Goldberg. This was solid stuff. After that, we got a recap of Natalya vs. Aaliyah, followed by a recap of Natalya vs. Aaliyah, followed by a recap of Natalya vs. Aaliyah, and then we got Natalya vs. Aaliyah. I don't even have anything funny to say. This feud is so boring. This match could only be won by pinfall or submission, so a no DQ match then, and Aaliyah got to the ropes in the sharpshooter, but because there were no DQs, Natalya didn't have to let go, so Aaliyah tapped. After 3 weeks of Aaliyah getting fluke wins, Natalya wins the first proper match they have, and won within the rules of the match. Aaliyah's wins were actually flukes then. Good to know. Can't wait for them to have a rematch next week. Xia Li then came out to protect Aaliyah from a post-match beatdown, which is an exact repeat from a couple of weeks ago. This feud is so boring. We got a nice little video package about Rocky Johnson for Black History Month, narrated by The Rock, and Charlotte Flair backstage turned to the camera and said, "As always, I'm the main event." And then it cut to the ring for the next segment. Alright, that was weird. Sami Zayn hosted In Zayn next, where they first threw to a clip of Johnny Knoxville entering a WWE building, vandalizing some artwork and tearing apart some merchandise he didn't buy while wearing a replica United States title. Okay, Sami was interrupted by his scheduled guest, which makes perfect sense, as Shinsuke and Boogs came out. But weirdly, when Boogs went to go grab the microphone in the ring, he got electrocuted, I think? I'm not 100% sure what happened, and I could go back and rewatch it so I could be sure, but I won't because I don't want to. Shinsuke then checked on him, but Sami hit a haluva kick on him. Then they showed a recap of Happy Corbin, Drew, and Madcap Moss from last week before showing that Moss has got a comically huge black eye from the Claymore Drew hit. He said he can't join Corbin for his match against Cesaro, but he's sure he'll be fine. He was. Corbin beat Cesaro fairly quickly after Cesaro got a flurry of offense in. He was then announced as the undefeated Happy Corbin, as he hasn't lost a match since becoming Happy Corbin. But I thought wins and losses didn't matter. Drew then threatened to kill Madcap Moss backstage, saying their match at Elimination Chamber is now a Falls Count Anywhere match, which means anything goes. I mean, it doesn't. That's a street fight. Or a no holds barred match. Or an Extreme Rules match. Or we once again cut to Charlotte Flair in the same place backstage, who says, "I'm going to stomp out Naomi's glow." And then it cuts to Goldberg backstage. What are these segments? Goldberg has his sit-down interview with Michael Cole, saying this match has been 2 years, 10 years, 15 years in the making. I mean, it hasn't. Roman Reigns only debuted 9 and a bit years ago. We got a recap of the opening segment before it was time for the main event, Naomi versus Charlotte Flair for the SmackDown Women's Championship. With Sonya Deville absent, the two were given a lot of time, going through 2 ad breaks, and wouldn't you know it, it was bloody great. You see what happens when you give your talented wrestlers time to wrestle? There were a ton of near falls in this match. Maybe even too many? But eventually, Charlotte managed to get the pinfall with the natural selection. 2 great wrestling matches on one show. What is this, AEW? But instead of ending on that high note of the match, Sonya Deville came out and got into Naomi's face, and Naomi attacked her. But Naomi, she's got her jacket on. That's illegal. Charlotte then came back in and seemingly cares about Deville now for some reason, because she saved her from Naomi's attack. And then after Ronda Rousey came out to even the odds, she pulled Deville out of the ring to stop Ronda injuring her other arm. An odd way to end, but hey, 2 great matches on one show, I can't complain too much. So that was the show. Let me know what you thought in the comments and by voting in our community tab, where 67% of you voted for Naomi versus Charlotte, a banger of a match. This show had some real low points, and even the very good or great stuff has asterisks next to it, pulling it down a little bit, like New Day versus Lotharios being a rematch for no reason and being 50-50 booked, Naomi's never-ending Sonya feud pulling down their great encounter. But aside from that, SmackDown actually had 2 very good matches on it, and that's considerably better than they normally do. I'm a simple guy, I just like good wrestling. This show gets a 3 out of 5, smack bang in the middle. Now over to Tempest for his review of AEW Rampage.
It's a 5 out of 5 show. It had Hook on it. What's going on, WrestleTalk friends and fans? Tempest is back with another review of AEW Rampage in about 3 minutes. So this week's show opened up with the match we were supposed to have a few weeks ago, that being the Young Bucks taking on their old rivals Roppongi Vice. I've been really excited to see this. We haven't gotten a lot of Young Bucks tag matches on TV since they lost the tag titles at All Out, but man, it really shows just how much better this show can be when they're featured more frequently, because this match was awesome. The Young Bucks movements were so quick and they meshed perfectly with Roppongi Vice, as both teams used a much more junior heavyweight style than we're used to seeing from the Young Bucks in AEW. They still do a lot of flips for sure, but this was definitely harkening back to the style that we would have seen between these 2 teams at Wrestle Kingdom 11. This is about as good an opener as you could hope to see on a show like this, with the Young Bucks eventually hitting the BTE trigger on Rocky Romero for the win, and then Jay White coming out afterwards and hitting the Blade Runner on Trent Beretta for good measure. Jay White never can pass up a chance to take out Trent Beretta, and they're going to wrestle on Rampage next week, a match I'm very much looking forward to as Jay White's in-ring debut for AEW. This was a very good opening segment. This gets a 5 out of 5. We had a crazy backstage promo where Chris Statlander Statlander said that Layla Hirsch's parents were right to leave her in an orphanage.
Jesus Christ.
But then we had our next match as Britt Baker took on Robin Renegade. Absolutely no ass licking from this match. False advertising. Now you might expect this to be another really quick squash match, but this actually got some time, with Britt Baker eventually hitting the stomp for the win. There was nothing super special about this match by any means, but it was long enough that it made it feel a little bit more important than the usual 30-second to 2-minute squash match we see on Rampage most weeks. After the match, Mercedes Martinez and Jamie Hayter got into it, and I'm sure we'll be seeing them square off in the near future. This was a fairly solid match. This gets a 3 out of 5. And then we had the return of the future AEW World Champion, Hook. Hook was taking on one of the top students from the factory, that being a young man named Blake Lee, and there really wasn't much to say about this match. It was more Hook, so that's pretty awesome, but he didn't do anything different. It was just more of the same, and honestly, at this point in his career, that's all I need to see. They continue to build towards a Hook QT Marshall match, and I think that'll serve really well as the biggest match Hook will have had to that point. That being said, for this match, it's Hook. Gets 1,000,000 stars out of 5. He won with the red rum, in case you couldn't tell. And then we got the main event, AEW World Tag Team Championship match, as Jurassic Express defended the titles against the Ass Boys. I've grown quite fond of the AEW World Tag Team title matches that take place on Rampage. They feel like one of the best matches of the week for any given week that they take place in, but this one was just... it was alright. This match wasn't bad, don't get me wrong, but I don't think this match lived up to the same standard that the Jurassic Express matches with the Dark Order or with Private Party really were. And this is the match with the most build among them. This match was built up for like a month. We still did get storyline progression here as the match was winding down, as Luchasaurus chokeslammed one of the Ass Boys into the crowd, Christian hit a big spear on Billy Gunn, and then Jungle Boy hit the other Ass Boy with the Unprettier. Could we start seeing the build towards a Jungle Boy Christian Cage match? I'd be very interested in seeing that. Yes, I would. Yes, I would. The Unprettier was the finish as Jurassic Express retained the titles over the Ass Boys. The main event was fine, just not one of the better ones that I'd seen on Rampage in recent weeks. I'll give this a 4 out of 5, and I'll give the show as a whole a 4 out of 5 as well. It had a great opener, and it had Hook. What more do you want? And that just about wraps it up for me. If you want to hear more of my thoughts on this week's show, make sure you go over to WrestleTalk podcast later on today, where myself and Chopper Pete will be breaking down this entire episode of Rampage and last night's SmackDown in complete detail. Until then, take care, stay beautiful, LIW for life, and make sure that Pete can wear that championship just once. He loves that belt oh so dearly.
Keith Lee has debuted in AEW, and I am the happiest little pig in the whole world. I've had so many people messaging me on Twitter, Denise. This is Denise, by the way, you know her. We've had so many people messaging me on Twitter saying, like, I don't know, have you seen the Keith Lee's debut in AEW? And I did, and he threw him really far. He threw him so far, Denise. Denise, are you excited about how far Keith Lee threw him? Oh my God.